next we have Anish, who is going to be taking you through some basic automation within Zoho Creator, automation that you can do without having to write any code whatsoever. So that's pretty exciting. How did you guys feel that the reporting session went? I mean, I know that it'd be nice if we could have done the ultra cool stuff where we took that data, formatted it, and showed you how to print it out, essentially. But do you guys feel good about that session? Are we making good strides forward? Are we keeping our promise? Are we boring you? Is there any critique you have so far? Anish is ready to go. Give Anish a big round of applause. And we'll go ahead and do this.
Hi, everybody. So we will have two exercises in this section, which is automation without coding. The first one would be how to set up notification from the application. So let's say a visitor comes in, and as soon as he fills in his details and clicks on submit, we want to send him a thank you email. Thank you for visiting us. This is what we are going to achieve. Let's see how we can do it in Zoho Creator. Again, I go to the development environment by clicking on edit this application. So I click on back to form builder, and we reach the same screen where we have built the first form, visitor sign in. So any changes to this form, we have to do it from here. So now let's take the first step towards configuring an email notification. I hope everybody are on the same screen. We are all on the same screen so that I can show you the next step. Towards the right-hand top, there is a settings button that you can see, shape of a gear. Click on that, and you will have a list of items coming in. Try to point on notification and go to email. Once you click on email, you will be taken to this screen. So we are just about to configure the email. So as everybody knows, to send an email, you need the from address, the to address, the subject, and message. So we are going to configure that. So when the visitor comes in, from whom should the email go? Obviously, from the admin of this particular application, the person who is the administrator of this particular application. So we have captured that. Zoho Creator has captured that data in something like this, Zoho variables. You just don't have to give a lot of thought about it. Just think like the admin of the app is captured in admin user ID. Okay. And to whom should we send this email? Obviously, to the visitor. And again, we have captured that information with the visitor sign-in form, the email ID of the visitor. That will automatically be available here. Okay. You see the connection? We went into the visitor sign-in form, and visitor sign-in form, there are fields like email, which will get automatically listed here. That makes it easier for you.
We had a field in the
That
we have the option to select that.
No. Then you have to go to the employee form and do this. Okay. You remember we started from the visitor sign-in form and do it.
Yeah, but the visitors are linked.
They are linked, but in this we cannot do that. So next we go to the subject. And I just enter, thank you. Now we come to the body of the email. Hi. Thank you for now let's say instead of saying just hi, wouldn't it be good if we can address the visitor by the name? Anyway, we are capturing the name through the visitor form detail. If you want to do something like that, there's an option here, insert fields. All the fields in that visitor sign-in form will automatically be available here. So you just have to pick the right field, which is name. What will happen is every time a visitor enters details, let's say that the visitor name is Teresa. The email will go like, "Hi Teresa, thank you for visiting us." Isn't that cool? Now I go to save. I just type it. I click on save, and we have configured the email notification. Similarly, if you want to send a text message when the visitor comes to our company, can we go ahead? Now that we have configured email notification, I just want to introduce you to some other options of notification, which is SMS. Here we call it as text message. Let's say if you want to send a text message to the visitor, we can do even that. There's an option for that, SMS. So again, we have collected the phone number of the visitor. So it says, similar lines, we can send a text message to the visitor as well. Are we all on the same page? Have we configured the email notification? Shall we proceed to the next task? Okay, thank you. So the next task is, remember we had a terms and conditions field in the visitor sign-in form. And two types of visitors we usually get. One is people doing personal visits. One is business ones, business meetings. And not all of them needs to agree to this, terms and conditions. So we are going to set a rule that if the purpose or the reason of visit is business, only then they need to have terms and conditions agreed. So there is a rule and there is a task. The task is that if the reason for visit is business, and the task is show this particular field, the terms and conditions field, to those who are coming for the business visit. This is what we are going to achieve. Just to get started, I'm showing you the visitor form, and we have the reason for visit here. If it's business, we will show this field. Otherwise, we will hide it. Okay. I go into the development environment. Again, the form which we are operating in is the visitor sign-in form. On top of that, on the right,
so is everyone in this page? Proceed to that. Yeah. So regarding the first task, right? So we have configured email and the text message. So can anyone say when that will be triggered? So when you will get an email? So we have configured an email notification. So can anyone say when that particular email will be sent to the visitor? Yeah, when you submit the form. So typically, when you access the visitor sign-in form, when someone enters the data, that particular email will send to the visitor. So that's how it's going to work. Similarly, you can send a text message as well. So if you want to try that out, you can try it now or get into this next task. So you need time for that, or we'll proceed with the second task? We'll proceed with the second task? Okay.
So again, we are going to do this rules and task configuration in the particular form visitor sign-in. On the right top, we have the settings button, and click on that. And there is something called automation. So I click on that, and it will take me to the section where I can configure the rules and tasks, which we talked about earlier. So first we will set up the rule, and then the task. Okay. There's a button over here, create rule, and click on that, and then all new set of things have opened. So there are around 4 different things here. Let me take you through that. First, it's asking for basic details. How would you like to name the rule? And you want to add some description, you can do that. Execute on, add, update, add and update. When do you want this rule to be triggered? As Saran was saying just now, whenever somebody is entering information on the form. That means on add, on adding data. Same thing we want to do when somebody is updating his information due to an error in the data he submitted. So in our case, we want to go with something that captures both, this add and update.
So is anyone here like a Zoho Serum user? Anybody? Okay, so this is pretty much like the workflow section, right? So if-then statements, basically setting up workflows on adding a record or updating a record. So it's the similar concept to that. So if you're familiar with that, this is right in line with that thing, okay?
The third thing. Where do you want to third one is the criteria. Criteria is like the condition on which you want to trigger. In here, what is our condition? Our condition is like, if the reason for visit is business, that we can configure here. A particular field will be here. I'll set up the criteria there. Now let's go to the 4th section over here, which is like associating tasks. So we have 2 things, rules and tasks. First we configure the rule, then we'll come to the task. What is the task? There are 4 types of tasks which we can execute here. First one is field task. Let's say you want to show or hide a particular field in the form. That is an example for the type of field task that we can do. Then we have notifications. Let's say if you want to send an email right after form submission, just like what we did before, it's another set of tasks that we can achieve here. Third one is like success message. When somebody submits a form, you want to show a message based on a particular rule. This is where you will go. And let's say after submitting the particular form, visitor form, if you want to take them to your company's website, then you can do that in the next URL section. Now, our scope is limited to showing or hiding a particular field. So we will choose only the field task. Okay. I hope I covered all the 4 things. Now, let's do that.
So just before we move on to that, let's just quickly see, is anybody confused by anything in 1, 2, 3, or 4? Any of these things that Anish just went over that we should maybe elaborate on, or if you wanted another example of what you could do with them or a way to approach it, anything at all? So, right, so the URL would,
Yeah.
so basically the URL would be fired depending on whether or not you're creating this rule as a added record or when the record's updated, or both. It'll forward it to any URL you want it to forward to.
Yeah, whichever URL you want to forward it to.
Yeah, like if you think of it as just like a task, like you're saying, if this criteria is met, then shoot this URL. That's basically what you're doing. So when a certain record needs to be updated, then you can do that. So did you have a question?
It says selected. He's hit selected records, but we haven't selected.
Yeah, we haven't selected anything either. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So does anybody else have any questions about any of this? It's good to understand the basic concepts of these things before you start getting in and playing with it. Again, the workflows is pretty simple. We're talking about if-then statements, essentially. So if a certain condition is met, then this task happens, or this action is basically fired. Everyone good on that? Question?
Success message, is that just alternatives based on types of input? I mean, there's already going to be the successful English record, the success message for just adding a record.
Right.
But is the success message option here for other criteria then?
Did you hear that? Basically, is the success message here, is that for other criteria other than just a standard entry?
It's possible, like, you can change the rule as well as the, success message, both.
Right. So if someone updates a form in a specific way, you might want to show them a certain message, right? So for example, if you had some kind of form where you wanted someone to evaluate your service, if you got a glowing review, the success message is great, we'll keep it up. If you got a really bad review, you wouldn't want to have that same message go out, right? You'd want to try to comfort them and try to, show that you're going to try to reach out to them or something else, right? So, okay, is there any other questions on any of this? Because this can be a little tricky, but it's pretty straightforward, and this is like where you can get a lot of power out of something without doing any scripting at all. So anything else? I'm sorry that I'm just stonewalling Anish right now. I just want to make sure. I'm also trying to slow him down just a little bit. All right, cool. Sorry.
So let's go ahead and start configuring this rule, followed by the task. First step, you can name the rule. It's very contextual, so description is optional. If you want to add something, you can add that. I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay. Second one, execute on. As we have discussed, in this case, we would be using add and update. There would be certain cases where we would go with only add, like, when we update the details of a particular visit, we don't want to notify the user or change anything. In that case, we will just go with add or update. Now we come to the third part. Just the criteria. So what's the condition for the rule? The reason for visit is business. That's what I'm going to set here. Reason for visit. I have multiple operators here, equals to, not equal to, starts with, end with. What would come here? Obviously, business. I'll just verbally explain what we have done so far. Yeah. Actually, both will work like now. If you set a condition for to showing the field, by default it will be hidden. Yeah. So we name the rule and we set the condition when it would be triggered. And now we're setting the condition like, what is the criteria for the rule to be triggered. This is when the reason for visit equal to business. Okay. Now the rule is complete. Now let's associate the task. The task is showing the field. On the field task, there is a plus button. I clicked on that. Just like what I did with rule, I can name the task as well. I enter some name, show PNC. All the tasks that are available would be listed as a drop down here. Under choose task. As a drop down, I can select any of the tasks which I can execute on a field. Okay. Let's see what are the available tasks. You can hide fields, you can disable fields, enable, show, and set field value. Okay. Disable fields typically come from when, let's say, you're on an order form where you're making some orders, let's say pizza order by itself. And there is a price field where you want to show price of the selected pizza. You don't want the customer to edit that. So you have to disable that particular field from the customer editing it. That's when you use the task like disable. Okay. Now the specific task which we will be going to use is show fields. Now a new section has opened where it's asking us, okay, show fields, which one? All the fields in the visitor sign-in form would be listed here, and I just select that particular field. Are we good? Any questions? Anything you need me to explain further on this? Okay. Looks good. I'm proceeding. Now I click on Save and Associate. Save and Associate means a particular task is saved and it's associated with a particular rule. Now let's hope everybody has been following and is done till now. If so, we can go to the live application and see whether we have configured everything properly and if it's working. Shall we? Click on access this application. When you check that, there is no field. The terms and conditions field is not there. Now, I chose the reason for visit as business. It comes automatically. So the rule and the task which we created is working. Similarly, you can do other rules and tasks, like create a rule and associate it different tasks. So a variety of rules and variety of tasks. You can use a combination of that to achieve various things on the forms. What I showed is just one example. You can try out. There is a question. We can do that. Yes. You just capture that information from whom do you want to visit, configure an email notification.
Any other questions? That was a good question about the notification thing. Anything else?
Yep.
You remember the session that we skipped? Can someone remember what is the task that we wanted to do? Yeah. So we're going to create a visitor ID card using the record summary. So let's see how to do that. But we can't do something like this now, like a business card. It's a complete business card where you have all the icons, all the information, and all the alignment done. We'll create a simple visitor ID card. I'll take you to the interface and show how it looks so that you can explore it on your own. I don't want any of you to do it now because it's going to take some time, where you can listen to me and later you can try it on your own. So let's get started. I get into the visitor sign-in report. So in this report, I'm going to create an ID card. So I get back to the development environment. You can see an option here, record summary. I click on it. And I go to create a record summary. Let's say it's ID card. And we can choose to have different layouts, like it can be a 1-column or a 2-column or a 3-column layout, because ID card is going to be a 1-column, so I just choose the 1-column layout, and I click on create. So this is the interface where we are going to create the ID card, and we can see the form and the form name here, and you can see all the fields listed here. Now, we can see some of the components that we can use, that is the heading, the paragraph. All we have to do is just drag and drop these stars as well as the fields. So, before we start creating yeah. Okay. So let me do it once again. Let's get to the dashboard of this application. I'm sure all of you are here. From here, get into the reports tab. And we have the visitor sign-in report. Click on this. Yeah. Under report settings, we can see the record summary. Okay. I'll delete it and I'll create it once again. So this is how it's going to look like. Now we'll create the first summary. That will be the ID card. So let's say I name it as ID card. And typically ID card is a 1-column layout. So I click on create. Yeah. So this is where we are going to create the ID card, and we can see all the fields in the visitor sign-in form listed here on the left side, and all the components that we can create, that we can use to create the ID card is listed here. First, to create a layout for the ID card, what I'm going to do is, you can see on the top right corner of the screen, you can see here a settings button. Now, let me click on the drop down, and I see a lot of options here. Now, I get into this first tab, where you get a double-headed arrow. I click on that. First, I have to choose the size of the layout, the size of the ID card. So let's say I choose to have a custom size. or it can be in any other size like A4, standard A4, A3 formats. Now, I click on Customize, and I set the width to somewhere around 350. So this will be the layout. As we can see here, as soon as I set it to 350, we can see the layout. I can choose to set a padding, and the orientation can be a portrait. So basically, all these are some of the customizations, some of the fonts, colors, background themes, images that you want to set up for your ID card. Now, I get to the next tab. That's the Layout tab. In Layout, we have different column of layouts, and we can choose to have a page header and a footer. Now, let's get into the final tab. That's where we are going to customize the background color, the image, and stuffs. So, first, let's get into the background color. Let me choose to have something in blue. That's my favorite color. So I just drag and drop this small ring which we see here. Smaller ring. So you can choose to select the color, and you can choose to have the intensity of the color. And you can see the preview of the color that which you are going to use as the background color. Something like this. Now I click on OK. So we can see that the background has been set. Now, let's say you have an image for your company. You have a logo of your company. So what you can do is you can choose the image. Let's say, for example, let me choose this for now. So Creator. And I click on OK. Oh, it's going to show all these things. So this contains a lot of images. So let me go without the images now. If you have an image of your company, you can have it attached here. And we can choose to set the border color, border thickness, and the display name will be ID card. So pretty much, yes. Yeah, let me check. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay. I think it works the way the first time what we set it as an orientation, it remains like that. So if it's a portrait, it will remain as a portrait. Or if you choose to set a landscape initially, it will stay as a landscape. Okay. Now, first, let me drag and drop a heading field into this layout. As soon as I drag and drop, I can see some of the font and some of the background customization that I can be doing to this heading field. Now, what I'll do is, let me give the company name here. Let's say it's Zilker. And I choose the entire thing. And I align it in the center. And I can choose to make it bold. increase the font size. Okay, so I'm done placing my company name. Next, what I do is I drag and drop a paragraph field. So here, I'll say it as visitor ID card. Now I choose this entire space and I'm aligning it. Let me give a color and I'll make it as bold. Yes. So we are done. So this goes in the header and the paragraph. Next, what we'll do is we'll drag and drop fields. So I have to have the visitor name, and let's say I want to have the visitor name, his mobile number. What I can do is I drag and drop the name field here. So let's say the label placement, you can set the label placement either without the label or you just specify the name of the person without specifying name and say it's Michael, rather you just have the name. So that's without the label name, or the label name can be towards the left or at the top. So I choose to keep it in the left. And here, this name is going to list the name of the visitor. I can choose to set the format value, format label. Let's say all the labels I want to make it as, I want to have it in a different color. And all the values, let me have it in a different color. Be something in yellow. Yes. So it'll be something like this, whereas all the field names will be listed in a different color. Sorry, I'm very poor in formatting, but you can, based on the creativity, we can definitely create very good business cards or very good ID cards. Next, I drag and drop a number field. That will be the phone number. So again, the same thing I do. I get into this format label. I choose this code. Same thing I'm going to do here. I copy it and paste this code here. So, okay, so this will be something like this. I can choose to set the name, the phone number. I can choose to have how many other fields that I want to have it in the ID card. Then, once I'm done making all the changes, I click on the Save button. So on the top right corner of the screen, you can see the Save button. So this is the Save button. I click on it. So the ID card is created. Now, let's access the report in the live environment to view the card. So this is the visitor sign-in report, and I hover to a particular record, and I click on Edit. You have it out? Yes? That's what I told you, right? Okay. That's okay. Yeah. Let's get back to the builder. So she has a doubt that she wants to display only the name of the visitor rather than you having it as a name, then specifying the name, value of the name John, email, you give the email address. No, she doesn't want it that way. So what we can do is go to edit. So this, it can be without label. Okay, got it? Yeah. Now, let's save it and access the report to view the card. So I mouse over to a particular record and I choose the view record option. So this is something, the ID card that we are going to create. And from here, as soon as you get a visitor to your company, you can just print the ID card and give it to them. So for each and every visitor that you're going to add to this form, an ID card will be created by default. Yes. Yes, yes. All those customization are available when we saw in the development environment. So you can make minor changes so that you can tweak the ID card in the way you want. So basically it can be something like you set a background color, you set a specific color for all your field names, and you set a specific color for all your values. Or you just have the values in your ID card. You can also choose to have a photograph of your visitor if you have it captured while entering the data. Yes. I don't get you. Yes. Yes. I haven't tried out that. Okay, let me check. So, record summary. Okay, go to edit. So here, which one are you talking about? This one? Here? Here. Okay. Yes. Oh yeah, you can set the dimensions. Yeah, you can't do the height. You have to just. So this is pretty much, we can create a lot of such stuffs. Now let me get back to the slides where we saw we can create payslips for each, and let's say it's an employee management application where you have all the employee details and you want to send the payslip each and every month to all the employees. What you can do is you can set up a notification, email notification, and you can attach this payslip template to that notification. So all the process gets automated. Something like a business card for all your employees, or this is what I said, we can send invoice to our customers. So that's it from the record summary. Shall we go for a break? Or
we have about 10 minutes. So this would be a good time to review some of the stuff that we did. I mean, it was kind of disjointed between the technology failing on us and then kind of cutting Vivek off, bringing on Anish, then bringing back Vivek. So I don't think we probably did this in the best way possible. So does anybody have any questions about cell phones ringing? Just kidding. Or does anybody have a question, though, about anything that we've seen after lunch so far? I mean, anything at all. If you want to do one more example of a rule, we can do one of those. Anything at all. I'm leaving it open to you people to make a decision. Okay, so there's a question that when we saw rules, there was rules and tasks, but we only looked at rules. So is there something about
Yes.
tasks?
No, that's pretty much the same. I'll show you.
So
So you're talking about this, right? So, yes. So let's take off this case. When you take form automation, you can split it into two categories. One is the rules, the other one is the tasks. So tasks are all application specific. You can create n number of tasks for your forms. Okay, you can have so many tasks. You can define a task to send an email notification, or you can set a task to redirect users to some other URL on submitting data, or it can be showing a field or hiding a field. It can be any form level action, or it can be any field level action. So all you can do is you can create a task and you can leave it just like that without adding it to a rule. Might be in future, if you want to do something, you create a rule, you can associate how many of a tasks you want to the rule.
So does this make sense? Are we good on this? Basically, a task is the then.
So when you click on create task, see, you can see all these tasks. You can define tasks and leave it as such. But this task won't be carried out unless you associate it to a rule.
So are we good on that? Does that make sense to everybody? Again, thinking about this as if-then statements, so the tasks are the thens that you're creating, the events, the actions that you want to happen, the tasks, and then you're setting them up to a scenario for them to be executed. Is there any other questions? Again, we have a few more minutes. It's good to try to solidify
Yes, question.
the concepts.
We created a calendar report. Is there any way to sync that with something like an Outlook calendar to send alerts or to actually create invitations?
To answer that, we have something called iCal feed. So that is supported by most of the calendar services like Google Calendar, Outlook, and stuff like that. You don't need to create a calendar as such. Just export the data from the list view itself, or the data you have in the table, and you can export the feed URL and put it into Google Calendar or Outlook. The data entered here will be synced in the Google Calendar or Outlook or any other calendar.
So you can see here under the report settings icon, there is an option links and calendar feed for this view. So this is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
You have this.
Once you enable it, there is a URL down there. Right. Use that URL to connect to any other services.
So that was a good question. Do you have anybody else have any other kind of questions like that? I mean, we have Sarin right here. He's the product manager of Zoho Creator. He is the ultimate maestro because he knows everything that's going on in it. So the question is combining reports so you can look up to find duplicate information.
Yeah, that's what we did now, right? So we have two things. We have a visitor form and then we have an employee form, right? So Vivek created a report called Visitors to Sales, right? That is typically combining two tables or two data in two different forms and then into one single report, right? So that's how you do it, to relate a report.
That was another good question. Anybody else? Again, we have about 5 more minutes or so, and then we'll get to go out and have a break. Anything else, though? Like I said, I encourage you to ask all the questions you can. Yeah.
To add to her question, if you have those two reports, can you filter them together?
Yeah. Everything is possible, right? It's typically like you can connect two forms. It's not a report as such. So you will connect two forms together into one single table, one single report, like the visitor to sales or something. And then you can create a filter for any of these two forms. Could be like employee, could be like visitor. So that applies for any case.
Okay. Again, anybody else? Any have a question about workflows? Anything about basic reporting? Maybe an advanced reporting question? One last one. Okay.
And somebody goes back after the deadline and they change something. Can you track that?
Yeah. Obviously, that's on the higher pack. We have something called editions. You have free edition, you have paid, in paid, that is like levels. You have standard, professional, and enterprise. If you are in enterprise edition, you'll get that access. So we will audit all the record changes, even the data updates, record addition and deletion. If you are in a higher pack, you'll get that access, right?
We still have one session after a break.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yep. To repeat the question, when you have a multi-line field, right, in a report, so say for example you're writing a story or something and then put a whole lot of content inside the multi-line, the list view will be like too large. The one single record will be like occupy the whole monitor, right? Typically the whole system. So is there a way to solve it? Right now, to be frank, there is no option to solve it. We're doing it. We are planning to do that in the new interface which we are working on. We'll see it pretty soon.
So let's say that we've created a task that every time we, like creating a task like sending an email to a client, but once we created that task, it actually notifies the user as well, whether it's an email or an SMS. But once the client replies to that specific email, which is the task, is there another automated where it can notify us once it replies? Did that make sense?
You can do it in a way called, there is something called email data, where you need to have a dedicated email, where when you send an email to the customer, send it from the dedicated email, and when the customer replies to it, it goes to that dedicated email, right? Using that email, we can push the data to create a
Like a task?
Yeah.
Or a reminder that, hey,
Exactly. So that goes to the creator table, and then it can notify to you as well. So we'll figure it out. So that there is a session on developer track on that. If you need to learn more about it, you can go there and attend that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.